We are slaying monsters.
Don't let the ghosts and the ghouls disturb you, darling.
So I was walking around my backyard the other day.
Yeah.
And I looked up in my cherry tree and I saw these crazy 3 slashes down it that were like probably 12 feet up or 10 feet up.
Okay.
And I'm sure there's a natural explanation for it, but it's so perfectly like, they look like claw marks down the cherry tree.
Mm-hmm.
And they're only like maybe 8 inches long, which is,
right.
It makes me think like, what the hell could have done that? We don't have pictures. Maybe I could take a picture and put it up somewhere for people to see.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there are definitely grizzly bears that make claw marks like that, but I feel like we don't have grizzly bears here in Pennsylvania.
No, I don't think so.
Southeastern Pennsylvania.
We have black bears, but I don't think it was a black bear.
I don't think we have black bears in our neighborhood, though.
Mm-mm. I don't think so either.
We do have owls, which is pretty cool. We heard...
Oh, yeah.
I'm pretty sure that it was a great horned owl this morning. We actually heard that great horned owl.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So awesome. We're so old. We're like, oh, I heard an owl.
Well, owls... Joe Nickel would be so proud of me. Because we're going to talk about owls today.
Are we?
Yeah.
Is that how you want to start?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, why not?
Cool. Also, we're slaying monsters. Matt is across the table.
Hey.
And I'm EJ.
I mean, who?
Who? Ha ha ha. Very good, very good. All right, so we're going to start with some owls, I guess?
Well, yeah, let's tell the people what's going on here.
Oh, yeah, this is our Fortean Roundup.
Yeah, Fortean Roundup, where we're going to talk about some of the cool Fortean news that has come out this last month. Fortean, of course, a word that we use to reference all the weird, strange, supernatural, paranormal type of stuff that happens. Basically anything that you would have seen on an episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. This is a word that is attributed to Charles Fort, who was one of the paragons of Fortean literature. He started this movement back in the turn of the 20th century. And it's a word that I want to help bring back into the spotlight because it's a good word and it describes exactly everything that we do, I think.
Yeah.
I struggle because, like, I use the word supernatural and paranormal a lot when I describe what we do to people. I'm like, oh, it's a supernatural history podcast, you know, but people immediately equate supernatural with, like, ghosts, I think, haunted places, and supernatural isn't necessarily like aliens. Mm-hmm. You know, that's not what pops into your mind. Fortean covers all of that shit. Fortean can be like, I saw a sheep with fangs. Like, that's fucking Fortean, right? That's the crazy frogs falling from the sky. That's Fortean, you know.
It's also a logical explanation for that.
The frogs?
Yeah.
Oh, well, yeah, I mean, yeah, sure. Absolutely. I'm not saying that there's a logical explanation or not. It's just the word that we use to, like, categorize all of that, you know. So, yeah, I like the word Fortean. I'd like us to use Fortean more often in our daily language. My challenge for you, the listener, use Fortean in a sentence today.
I just turned 40 and I'm ready to have a drink.
We were talking about this because we're both turning 40 this year, and I want to have a Fortean birthday. Yeah, 40 and Fortean, I think. 40 and Fortean.
Yeah. 40 and Fortean.
That's going to be my birthday.
I like that idea.
This December. 40 and Fortean.
That's really good. That's really good. For my 40th, I just kind of punched it down into nothing and shoved it away and said, oh, who cares?
Yeah.
Let's just move on. I'm
definitely going to do a little bit of that, too.
Yep. I don't need to make a big deal out of that.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. You want to get into it?
Yes, I do.
Get into it? Okay, cool. So I think we should start with a sadder piece of news this month. Jerry D. Coleman has died. Now, Jerry Coleman, he was the younger brother of Loren Coleman, who is a renowned cryptozoologist. Loren has written some of my favorite books on the subject, including Cryptozoology A to Z, which I still use very extensively for this podcast. And we were actually at Loren Coleman's museum last year? No, 2 years ago? 2 years ago, the Cryptozoology Museum in Portland. which I think is not actually in Portland anymore. They were moving it. I think it might be in Bangor now. Somewhere in...
Oh, they did move
Yeah,
it.
somewhere in southern Maine, there's a cryptozoology museum. You should check it out. It's awesome. Lauren Coleman's awesome. Sometimes he's there, apparently, so drop by. But unfortunately, his brother passed away on Labor Day weekend. And Lauren Coleman wrote a really heartfelt post about him on cryptozoonews.com.
Yeah, it's a good read, and I recommend people going and checking it out, because not only does it have, it's extremely heartfelt, and like I have little, encounter with Lauren Coleman just because, like, just through Matt, really, just going to the Cryptozoology Museum twice.
Sure.
Back when it was very much a smaller venue in Portland downtown.
Yeah, when it was downtown, yeah.
Yeah, and then when it got a little bit bigger, and moved a little outside of Portland. But then you said it just moved again, right?
Yeah, I believe they moved to Bangor.
Yeah. I think that this article is just really heartfelt and sweet, and the photos that are in it are awesome. It really shows just the vast experience that he had with his brother in researching cryptozoology and all the contributions he had to the field. And it made me tear up.
Yeah, I mean, it's really sweet. Jerry was actually an author, too. And he wrote the book Strange Highways, the guidebook to American mysteries and the unexplained, and its follow-up, More Strange Highways. But in the 1970s, Jerry was really kind of cut his teeth in the cryptozoological space when he investigated a thunderbird that allegedly attacked a small town in Illinois called Lawndale. Did you read this in the obituary? It's cool.
Oh, yeah.
One of these thunderbirds actually even tried to carry off a 10-year-old boy until his distraught mother attacked the bird and made it drop his son, or her son. It had apparently moved him like 35 feet. It's a really wild encounter.
That's pretty crazy. If it's real, God, I hate it. I'm sorry. Probably an owl. Okay. Anyway.
I don't... See, I said we were going to talk about owls. I don't think this was an owl, actually.
Oh, yeah?
Well, there's a couple of things about this story that I'm kind of a little suspicious about. One is that the kid weighed like 50 pounds. Okay. So if you have a bird that can carry a 50-pound kid, that bird's got to be like really massive. I looked up a little bit of this, and the harpy eagle. You ever heard of the harpy eagle?
I have.
Yeah, Central and South American bird of prey. That has been documented carrying almost half its weight in flight. That is apparently the strongest bird in terms of carrying capacity. The Steller's sea eagle, which is the largest bird in the world, has a wingspan of 8 feet and weighs 20 pounds. So if we put all this together, right, that means that the 20-pound bird could probably carry 10 pounds of weight, right? And that has an 8-foot wingspan. But eventually you end up with like diminishing returns across all of it, right? Because bigger birds need bigger wings. So if you have a thunderbird that's lifting a 50-pound kid, that's a wingspan that's probably like 20 feet long. And to accommodate that weight and the musculature that would be needed to flap those wings, you need a much bigger body as well. So you're adding on even more weight then too, right? Eventually you end up in this kind of feedback loop where I'm just not sure that even if you were talking about like the gigantic pterodons and stuff like that, I'm not sure that they would have been carrying 50 pounds of weight. So I suspect that probably what happened is it was like a condor or something like that knocked the kid over and was kind of after him. And together, maybe the condor dragged him a little bit. Maybe he, skittered on his butt a little bit or something like that and moved what seemed like 35 feet. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. It's not hard to believe that a distraught mother would have panicked and not been in the right headspace to judge the distance that she was running while hitting the bird trying to get her son safe.
Absolutely. I've never seen a Stellar sea eagle. That's really cool.
Oh, they're cool looking birds.
They're beautiful.
If you ever see, I don't know how people do it. Falconers who control and fly stellar sea eagles, when the sea eagle lands on their outstretched hand, that's like 20 pounds of weight dropping on your wrist. Think about that.
You have to be so strong.
Yeah. They're huge. They're the biggest bird in the world.
That's crazy.
Bird of prey, I guess. I should say they're the biggest, because compared to like a flamingo or something
true.
like that. But they're the biggest raptor.
It's a condor.
Oh, condors are the largest? Okay.
Well, according to Wikipedia, okay, the Andean condor is the largest because it has a 10-foot, 10-inch wingspan.
Okay. Yeah, so I guess that's it's a little bit bigger. Also, have you ever heard of the Philippine eagle?
I just did, actually, when I was looking.
Yeah, Philippine eagle. They call them something like monkey eagles, too, I think, because they prey on monkeys.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
That's
they're
scary.
They're huge and they're really vicious.
Oh, man. Well, getting back to Lauren Coleman.
Yes, anyway, we're off topic, but Jerry Coleman, he investigated this. That was kind of in the 70s, how he established himself in the cryptozoological space. Obviously, followed in Lauren's footsteps or headed down this cryptozoological path. He also investigated Bigfoot in Tennessee and cryptid alligators in his home state of Illinois.
And the other thing I really like about him is that at the end of the article, it mentions how he never went to university, but he finally got admitted into one.
Oh, I love this. Yeah.
Yeah, because he had such a great sense of humor, apparently, they say. This is quoted from the article. I believe this is Lauren saying this. I asked him what he meant, Jerry, and he said that the University of Tennessee had accepted his final remains in the forensic body farm at Knoxville. So this is a really cool thing that I don't know if our listeners know a whole lot about. Maybe some of you do, but it's a good opportunity to talk about the body farm at Knoxville.
Yeah.
Which is an amazing program where people can donate their dead bodies, preemptively, obviously, because you can't really do it after you're dead, but you have to do it beforehand.
I'm going to donate my mother-in-law.
yeah, right. They just sort of chuck your body in the woods and watch it decompose. And what it does is it helps forensic teams determine all kinds of ways of how you die and everything. It's really great for forensic studies.
Yeah, and learning about what happens to a body when it decays and, in different conditions.
Yeah, they put it in various conditions.
Yep.
In various seasons. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's a great way if you're interested in letting your body be part of a body of scientific work. There's a couple of different ways that you can do that. You can donate your body to science, but this one is specifically focused on forensic research, which is pretty cool because it could actually, you never know, like your body could help
solve a crime
at some point, which is it's better than just locking you in a box and sticking you under the earth, in my opinion, anyway.
Yeah, but do what you want, it's your body.
Yeah.
Do what makes you happy. But it's a cool little program they have. So anyway, rest in peace, Jerry Coleman.
Yeah, I think it's really cool. Having donated his body to the University of Tennessee, he's actually part of the same university that Grover Krantz's body is. Grover Krantz also donated his body to the University of Tennessee. He was a very, very, very famous Bigfoot researcher. He was one of the 4 horsemen of Sasquatchery. He died in 2002, and he is his skeleton is on display at the body with his dog, which is really awesome.
Oh, that's him. That's the dog. Oh.
Yep. We talked about of the 4 horsemen, we've talked about 2 thus far in our prehistory of Sasquatch. You remember Renee DeHinden and John Green. Okay. Yeah, so there are 2. Grover Krantz is 1, and Peter Byrne. Peter Byrne is the 4th one. So we will talk about them at some point. We're kind of slowly getting to all of them, but yeah, we've talked about 2 of them so far.
Cool.
I hope that Lauren is doing okay as he processes through all of this. Our thoughts will be with him for sure.
Yeah, what a loss. That's really... I mean, I know he was an older man, but it's still just God, that's hard.
It's hard.
Yeah. He seems like he was somebody very full of life and humor and very fun, a very fun guy. So
yeah, it makes me really sad because now I'm just kind of scrolling through Lauren Coleman's CryptoZoo News website, and they're all obituaries.
Oh my God.
And everything here, I mean, yeah. Tony Shields passed away, one of the people who shot a bunch of pictures of the Loch Ness Monster. You know, you go to the 2023 archive and it's top cryptozoology deaths of 2023.
Who are
you know all these people? Yeah, I know. It's really a shame.
What the hell?
Well, unfortunately, yeah, it's the end of an era, right? There are the people who came up with Lauren Coleman who are all kind of around that same age, who are just reaching the end of their life at this point.
Yeah.
So,
well, on that fucking note,
yeah, let's part of the reason why I wanted to do this news story is the very first one was because I want to be able to move on to things that are hopefully a little lighter and more upbeat than that. So, so let's go to this Daily Mail story next. If you even call this a story, this is. The Daily Mail is an interesting source, man. This article is titled "Frightening 20-Foot Figure Seen Clinging to the Side of Colorado Mountain."
Yeah, so this is interesting. So these two young women were on a really long hike, I think a 15-hour hike, and they took a pretty picture of the vista, and later on down the road, they discovered that there was something odd on the side of the mountain. And so they enhanced, like in a television show. And they saw, you can see what clearly looks like some kind of a creature clambering up the side of the mountain. It's it's a photo, so.
Yeah, and I mean, it really does. It looks like a massive headless creature. It's very thin, very like lanky.
Looks like its head is bowed forward.
Yeah, I don't mean that it's missing its head. It's just that you can't see the head in the picture. But yeah, it looks like it's climbing up the rocks, and you can see arms and legs and a torso, all what we would consider human figures. So. Yeah.
And with this article, you get that, and then you get all these like fun photos of these two young ladies on their trip. And what I see about this mostly is this is just a wonderful opportunity for them to share their really cool vacation photos to the world.
That's kind of what it seems like. Like there's one picture. So there's the zoomed out version. There's the zoomed in version. And then all the rest of the article is just other pictures of their time. Yeah. And like selfies and them in different places. And it's kind of like, I don't know, they're just flexing about this awesome vacation they took in Colorado and all the hiking that they did. But that's why I was like, I'm not even sure this is really an article.
It's pretty cute.
The Daily Mail is not a bastion of journalistic integrity.
No, it's not. But it's a very sweet little thing, and good for them for this hike. I mean, it's a long hike.
Yeah. The hike was called Long Peak in Colorado, and apparently, it's quite an endeavor if you're going to do it.
Yeah. So. And as somebody who climbs more nowadays, the technique that this thing is using is absolutely horrific, and it would never be able to climb. I mean, you don't climb like that. You don't climb with your arms down like that, and you're trying to. I mean, you do, but that doesn't look like a slab.
If it was doing anything, I think it would be vaulting upwards.
Yeah, it should be. Its arms should be up.
But yeah, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense.
It just doesn't make sense to me.
It's not. You bring up a good point though. Like if you are a bipedal creature, that is not the way. It's not the way that you would see a monkey climb a tree or a cliff either. Like it's just not the way bipeds scale surfaces.
Yeah. Putting aside all the other common sense reasons why this is not real. That's my biggest sticking point.
In case it needs to be said, this is pretty clearly just pareidolia. that, and they even admit it themselves. They shot a picture of the cliff face. They didn't see anything there, which means it wasn't like there was some moving creature that they took a picture of. So they shot a picture of the cliff face. They reviewed it later, and their father was like, "What is that thing?" And then they zoomed in on it, and they saw this thing in the picture after the fact. You see this a lot when it comes to ghosts or UFOs. They tend to be things where you're like, "Oh, I shot a vista," and then all of a sudden I saw something strange in the sky later on.
Yeah.
And most of the time that's just some kind of artifacting that you have, or some type of pareidolia. We are programmed as humans, and when I say programmed, I don't mean programmed by like a deity or anything like that, but we are biologically programmed to search for patterns and search for figures, because we're always looking for, are things dangerous? Are things friendly? Can we pick out something that looks like us? It's a defense mechanism, and that's what we do. And so if you see something that looks vaguely like a human figure climbing a cliff, you say, "Oh, that looks like a human."
Yeah.
Even though they calculated it to be about 20 feet high. So
it was a tall gray?
Tall white.
A tall white.
Yeah. The tall whites were
Tall
one
white.
of the aliens from, I forget who did that encounter. I don't know. There's so many variations, but the tall whites were definitely aliens that had been encountered at some point by someone.
Right.
So.
Well, I think this might be a new species of alien. Gray.
I think this is just a rock, and I think that it's the way that the light happened to fall on that rock in that particular moment in time, because the figure is actually pretty much just the same color as the rock.
Cool. Well, there's that story.
It is a cool effect, no matter what.
It is. It's cool. I love stuff like this. I think it's really cool.
Yeah, not a gigantic alien by any means.
No.
So this was sent in by a listener.
Yes.
Thank you very much for this submission. It looks like the Sasquatch is alive and well, at least in Louisiana, because this article with the headline, and I believe this is pronounced Nachioches.
No.
Nacho cheese?
No.
Nacho cheese?
No.
Nacho cheese. Nacho
Oh my
cheese.
God. You're so funny.
How do you pronounce it?
Okay, I don't know how to pronounce it, but that's not how you pronounce it.
Then how do you know that I'm not right? I could be right.
There's a T. You're missing the T. You're skipping the T
Hey,
completely.
people-
Nachitoches, probably.
Nachitoches.
Probably.
Nachitoches.
Yeah, that's going to be my guess.
I still think it's nacho cheese.
Nakadish.
What? No, she doesn't know. She doesn't know what she's talking about. Don't listen to Google.
Here, this one actually is Louisiana. Hang on,
Okay.
we're gonna get there. Nakitush.
Nakitush?
Nakitush. That is correct. Nakitush. Okay, so I believe that it's Nakitush. Nakitush Bigfoot Festival draws thousands interested in elusive creature. It's the first annual Nakitush Bigfoot Festival. Was September 15th, just 2 days after your birthday, EJ.
Wonderful.
And it was organized by Carl Chisholm. And the event ended up drawing thousands of people, which exceeded their expectations substantially. He said that he had originally had 900 bracelets to give out, and they were gone within the first hour.
That is so cool.
Yeah. Yeah, they even had people in Sasquatch costumes walking around for photo ops, and they had vendors, and they had all kinds of cool stuff like that.
That is super fun.
One of my favorite things is they interviewed one of the people who were just standing in line waiting to get in. They asked her, "Do you believe that Bigfoot exists?" And she said, in the most scientifically definitive reasoning that I've ever read, she said, "Absolutely. Why not?"
Huh. Yeah. Yeah, I like that.
Okay. Yeah. Why not?
I think that is a great reason why Bigfoot should be real. This is a town also that I have been wanting to go to for a while. So I think we need to find a reason. This is our reason to go there, besides the fact that I think it has a blues. It's along the blues. There's a blues highway or blues trail. You can
Okay. Yeah.
stop along and listen. I don't know if that's true, but my friend said that to me. I believe what my friend says. I feel like this is awesome, and we need to go next time.
Oh yeah, I definitely want to go. Yeah, I definitely want to go again. I mean, look, I have wanted to go to New Orleans for a long time because I just want to get into that deep history, some of the like, voodoo culture that's down there. I want to kind of embroil myself in and learn about. And I mean, why not? We could just skip on up there. I know that this, I'm going to pronounce this wrong too, but the Kisatchie National Forest is a place where they have reported Bigfoot sightings before. So it's not a crazy place to have a Sasquatch festival if you're going to have a Sasquatch festival, you know? So we have Cajun style Bigfoots down there already. Why not?
Yeah. Yeah, let's do it, man.
Sweet. Yeah, I'm down.
I'm thinking of Natchez. My friend went to Natchez.
These are different places.
Very different, but they're close.
It's also, I think, worth pointing out that as I study the map here, Nakitush, this, I believe I'm pronouncing it right, Nakitush, is
I'm going to let that go. I don't know.
Just south of Shreveport, which was in True Blood. So if you're going to get up there for a little weird weekend, I think that's as good a place as I need to go to.
Yeah. Very good. Very good. All right. Well, that sounds like a nice little trip.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like it's a cool thing. Like this wasn't a fly-by-night type of festival either. They had Paul Friedman, who was one of the researchers who had done a lot of Sasquatch casting, like casting the tracks of them. He has a big collection. He's unfortunately passed on now, but his family loaned out some of his collection of tracks and casts to the festival to have on display.
That's nice.
Yeah, isn't that cool?
Yeah.
So like they really had important Sasquatch relics as well.
Wow, I wonder what compelled them to do this. Because this is their first year doing this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Yeah, this is the inaugural year.
Wow, and it did so well. Cool.
I mean,
it's going to get bigger.
I think that just goes to show that obviously this community wants it. Mm-hmm. Right? Like there's a big presence down here apparently.
Yeah.
So
super cool. Mm-hmm. All right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, I want to go to New Orleans. Maybe we just tack this on and we make sure that we're down there next September.
Hell yeah, man. That would be great.
Maybe we can get a booth.
Yeah, they love that. A couple of people that are kind of skeptical sitting down in the Bigfoot festival. That sounds good.
We'll see. You'll never know. My dream is still to go to one of these things and like be accepted as one of you. We'll see.
Nakitush.
Nakitush. That's what I said.
Wait, stop. Nakitush.
Nakitush.
You're saying Nakitush.
It's the same. Whatever.
So our next story involves a lost species that, and this is from the article people.com, that eluded documentation for 55 years. So it's been photographed finally. It is the New Britain goshawk. The last sighting was apparently in 1969, and it was taken by a guy named Tom Virus. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but he is a photographer from Fiji, and he captured it in the Nakanai Mountains. And he did this on September 13th as a birthday present for me, and I really appreciate that. Thank you, Tom.
That was very sweet of him.
It's very sweet of him. It's a beautiful bird.
It is a really pretty bird. It's got like a pink, it's got red eyes and then a pink beak. Or pink, like area surrounding.
Yeah,
or
like a pinky, like a peachy
orangish,
face,
yeah,
and then like a black. Yeah, it's really cute. It's adorable. Great color scheme.
Yeah.
Good choice, birdie. But yeah, they're not gone. Yay! Yeah, so this is listed as a vulnerable species, not it's a step above endangered. So they estimate that there are 2,500 to 9,999 mature individuals.
That sounds like a bracket right there. They're like,
yes.
Okay, if there are less than 10,000, then it's considered.
This is where it
vulnerable.
is.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So anyway, we talk about the Tasmanian tiger.
Absolutely, yeah.
A lot, and other species that have presumably gone extinct completely. So it's really cool when we see these things that are on the fringes of becoming a cryptozoological animal, like, or, you know, just a legend, basically, to becoming once again back in the fold of reality. So
yeah, I mean,
cool.
The phrase "lost species" has cryptozoology all over it.
It does.
I mean, Tasmanian tiger is a lost species. You could even say that, like, the Mothman, which is the dinosaur that lives in the Congo, allegedly, is a lost species, like a lost species of dinosaur. There's people who believe that Mothman is actually a large turtle, like a prehistoric turtle instead. That would be a lost species of turtle. Yeah, I mean, anytime you invoke that type of language, I'm going to perk up and look at it and say, like, oh yeah, this is clearly cryptozoological, I think. We dealt with the Thunderbird a little earlier. We're going to deal with Mothman a little later down here. But it's kind of cool sometimes to be reminded that cryptozoology is more than just mythological Bigfoot, Loch Ness Monster stuff. It's also very real, very normal animals that just happen to be, you know, maybe a little troubled. Maybe you don't see them all that much, but they're out there. We're trying to capture them. We're trying to see that they're still around. And apparently this Goshawk is, which is really cool.
Yeah.
1969 was the last time they saw it. 55 years. That's really remarkable. It's really remarkable that they were able to elude people spotting them in all that time.
Yeah. I get a sense that it's not a very frequently traversed area, and probably hard to get to and hard to get through. So makes sense.
It's also, I mean, they say in the article here that the Papua New Guinea rainforest is the third largest intact tropical rainforest in the world. So taking that into consideration, it's not surprising that there might be animals there that are just hard to spot.
Yeah.
There's also apparently in 2022 a rare pigeon species. That was the first time it was documented in 140 years.
Wow.
That's the black-naped pheasant pigeon. Black-naped pheasant pigeon.
Aw, adorable.
Yeah. Let's talk. You want to talk aliens?
I do.
Always. I always want to talk about aliens. And we're going to talk more Daily Mail shenanigans because there were a couple articles in Daily Mail that used very little research and talked about some of our old friends. So this article, the article that caught my attention was titled "Bombshell UFO Hearing to Take Place in Congress as New Footage Emerges of Huge Craft Near U.S. Nuclear Weapons Base." First off, oh my God. Why do all these Daily Mail headlines just sound like Eric Von Däniken cornered you and is just screaming at you?
I don't know.
This is a 20-word headline.
Every word is precious.
Every word is something. Every word is crazier than the last. I'll tell you that. So this is very clearly the Daily Mail trying to springboard off of Luis Elizondo and his imminent book that was released last month. Mm-hmm. But basically, the Daily Mail is reporting on an incident that happened and was reported to Reddit. So in anticipation of this upcoming congressional hearing that we're also going to talk about, the Daily Mail published this article. It's riddled with inaccuracies. But let's ignore that headline for a minute. What the hell is up with this huge craft that is supposedly hovering over a, quote, U.S. weapons base?
Is it still there?
No.
Oh.
No. It was only there for a couple of minutes.
Okay.
So apparently on September 8th, a Montana man, known only by his Reddit handle, Pone the Poon, captured a light show in the night sky. Oh yeah, I see that face.
Just trying to figure out if it means what I think it means.
I think it means what you think it means.
Okay.
Yeah. It's spelled Pone, P-O-N-E, the Poon, rather than P-W-N, which is what it would be, how you would spell it if it was like a video game Pone. But
right.
I think, it's just phonetically spelled. So Pone the Poon and his wife saw a series of spinning, rotating lights that traveled across the night sky in Montana here. Initially, they thought that it was just a meteor, but they were quickly able to determine that it was much too large and moving much too erratically, and then there were several lights associated with it.
So larger than a drone, maybe? Or
Yes, yeah, larger than a drone.
could it have been confused as, like, what if there were multiple drones? I wonder if, like, it looked bigger because there were multiple drones.
That's my theory. We'll get to that in a sec. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, we'll get to that in a sec.
Okay.
But that's a good thought. Yeah. Because, when you see things at night, and this was right around sunset, I believe, and, whenever we think of the traditional alien spacecraft looking thing, you have the disc, and then there's a bunch of little portholes or lights on the side. And so, yeah, I mean, if you had 6 different drones lined up all in a row, maybe that would be it. But we'll come back to that.
Yeah.
So Pone the Poon said, "The craft seemed huge miles away. We observed it for 2 to 3 minutes as it continued flying away, and then it was just gone. No noise, just gone." This seemed like a very emotional experience for all of them, because it left Pone the Poon's wife shaking and crying, and he couldn't fall asleep until 4 a.m., which is bad because he had to get up early to feed his kids. This is what I'm talking about. This is the kind of explosive, intense journalistic expose that we get from the Daily Mail.
What's not explosive about it?
Oh, that he had to get up in the morning and feed his kids.
Well, it's just reality.
I mean, I guess so.
This is slice of life here, man. This is Montana living, Mrs. Pone the Poon is she has PTSD. She's very scared. I understand. If I were her and I were looking up, I'd be like looking at these lights being like, my world has shifted. What is my world anymore?
It's also, I should also point out that the author of this article literally just copied and pasted Reddit quotes and Reddit messages into their document.
Yeah, well, you sure about you think so?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I went to the Reddit thread too, and it's
Oh.
the quotes that are taken from the article are taken directly from Reddit. It's not like they reached out to Pone the Poon. They just wrote about the Reddit thread, which I guess in a funny way is exactly what we're doing too. So
That's true. I hope to be famous enough like Pone the Poon to have just like I don't even have to try. I just have something and the Daily Mail's like, that's a great story.
whoa, what a great story.
We're going to put it up.
Yeah.
We're going to, that's passive media right there. That's amazing.
Passive media is an incredible phrase.
Thank you. I just came up with it. I'm sure somebody else has as well, though.
It's incredible. I understand exactly what it is right away, and
Okay.
I feel like we are in a passive media phase right now.
Well, yeah, because I feel like we are creating it for them.
Right.
And I mean, like,
Well, how many of these articles, we're getting off topic here, but how many of these articles do you see, especially like political articles, that they're like, so-and-so tweeted this? Like, that is your fucking article?
that's your article.
You know?
That's your news right now.
Who gives a shit?
And I think, yeah, and I don't know if, like, the higher end journals are doing this.
I don't think they are.
But I think these tabloid
type journals
Yeah.
are. And the problem is, these are the ones that are accessible, and to a greater extent, these are the ones that are free. And so they need the content, but they're not paying their journalists a high price, and their reporting suffers a little bit, and you end up with shit like the Daily Mail.
Yeah, I know. And these people are doing the best they goddamn can with the little money that the Daily Mail is probably paying them. So
Right, and I'm sure, and to be fair, I have very little respect for the Daily Mail as a journalistic entity. I understand that the people who are working there and doing the reporting are just doing their jobs.
Absolutely.
And make that money, do what you can, live your best life. I have no problem with anyone who's working at the Daily Mail. Just the Daily Mail is an entity.
yeah, we all got to do things we don't like for money.
You bet.
and I think that I think it's good that they brought Pone the Poon into life, into the mainstream, because otherwise we would have never known about him, and I think that's important.
This is true.
And I mean, he's a guy who couldn't sleep. He was so shaken.
Yes.
I mean, this interfered with breakfast time the next day.
His kids' breakfast.
This
yeah.
is a big deal. I mean,
is.
who knows what was up there?
Rocked his world.
I think it was a series of drones.
So it didn't take very long for Reddit, where the images had originally been posted, to figure out what was actually going on.
Ooh.
Poon had actually captured the Starlink satellite, specifically a Starlink satellite chain.
Oh.
So the apparent spinning was the result of intermittent reflections on the different satellites.
Oh, interesting.
So different reflections at different times made the whole thing look like it was spinning around in a circle.
Oh, that's really cool and
Yeah.
fascinating. Oh, I wish I could have seen that.
Yeah. The Reddit user DinoZambi and Allison1228 cross-referenced the position of Starlink with the visible constellations in Poon's post and images, including the Big Dipper, and was able to confirm that the alleged craft was in the right position to be a Starlink satellite train. Okay, so I was trying to think, do you remember when we saw lights fly by in our backyard?
Yes.
That might have been this. That might have been this satellite
Okay.
train.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Anyway, so that's the first half of this post. That's the huge craft that apparently was seen. Now, for the second half of the story, Congress did indeed vote on the UAP Disclosure Act. And you may remember this from last Fortean, when we talked about this, our expose on Luis Elizondo. So Elizondo heads up the UAP Disclosure Fund, which is a 501c3 organization that's trying to essentially get a foothold in Congress. They were lobbying to get seats on a panel that would review UAP documents and have some kind of influence over what the government did with that information. Which is a little bit scary, because the last time something like that happened, Robert Bigelow siphoned off millions of taxpayer dollars to fund his bogus research on Skinwalker Ranch and line the pockets of his aerospace company, which has closed now at this point. And the more I think about that, and look, this is an unfounded opinion from me, but the more I think about the fact that Bigelow did all of this aerospace research and then closed the company, makes me wonder more and more if that wasn't some kind of tax shelter for him.
Yeah, I mean, that's just a guess.
That's just a guess.
But
Anyway.
yeah.
Anyway, ultimately, Congress did review the UAP Disclosure Act, and they submitted a revised amendment, which includes only 3 bullet points regarding UAP disclosure. Number 1, the Comptroller General of the U.S. gets to review the All-Domain Anomaly Research Office, or AARO. So the Comptroller of the U.S. gets to review that and those documents. Point 2, so-called sunset requirements of historical UAP audits, which essentially seems to mean putting expiration dates on audit reviews.
Okay.
And then finally, funding limitations related to UAPs. Funding limitations, I think, is huge. We'll have to see how this amendment plays out as things go on. I think that it officially becomes law in December. But if it means that people like Bigelow can't game the system anymore, I think that's a good thing.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And, you know, we were talking about this earlier today or yesterday, and I do worry a little bit about diverting government money toward UAP research when the vast majority of the people who are part of the diversion and the funding and all of that stuff don't actually have the clearance necessary to understand what's going on. Mm-hmm. And so there needs to be some kind of correction there. But look, we've talked already about some of the flaws in the research that's come out already. You know, Elizondo's out talking about, the best evidence that we have is these 3 videos that myself and other people have debunked over and over again. Mm-hmm. And I worry that diverting even more taxpayer money toward a cause when we are just getting the same bogus information or the same easily overturned cases over and over and over again is a big waste.
I think that the government is seeing that as well, which
That's
is why
what it seems to be.
They've kind of put the kibosh on this.
Yeah. Now, defense, I think, is important. And if they are coming from foreign powers or something like that, then that's important. Honestly, if they were coming from another planet and they were hostile, I think that's important too. But we don't have any evidence that suggests that.
Yeah, and I guess a counterpoint to that would be, well, if we don't have money into a system that is looking for things like that, looking for those threats, then we might miss it when it happens.
I suppose that's true, and I'm not saying that we need to remove funding altogether, but I think that the people who should be in control of that funding are the people who have the highest clearance, and that's not Gary Nolan, and it's not Lou Elizondo, you know. It should probably be somebody who's working in the government and somebody who had the clearance. There's a lot of problems with Elizondo and his background, including the fact that everyone who currently works in the government keeps coming out and saying that he did not have the authorizations that he claims to have had. So, you know.
And, you know, this is just speculation on my part, but I wouldn't be surprised if there was a group high up in the government whose job is to look for stuff like this.
I'm sure there is,
to look for foreign, you know, like, and I mean high level stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like having these like low level everymen walking into the doors and thinking that they can be in charge of protecting our planet from foreign and alien powers is kind of silly.
Yes.
And to assume that we already don't have something more powerful and robust in place is also kind of childish.
Right.
I think we've got everything we need already set up. I think we look at the skies already. We monitor what's happening. We know if China's doing something.
Well, and we saw that earlier, was it this year or last year, where there were Chinese balloons floating around and we were just like, shoot it down right now. Like, we knew that.
Yeah,
right?
I think that, and that's the thing, I think that's the problem that lay people like us have, is that we assume that they're not doing this shit already. Yeah. But they are. I really think that they are. I think we wouldn't really be around if they weren't. Given our history with Bigelow, you know, given what he's done and what he has not done, more particularly.
Yeah, like Bigelow has not produced any research at all.
Yeah,
right.
It seems like this is, at the very worst, a tax shelter and a way to hide money.
Right.
And at the very best, just misinformed, misled people that are trying to do good, but are just very mistaken.
And even if, say, Robert Bigelow is trying to do what he believes is best, let's be honest, right? Robert Bigelow was a supporter of Ron DeSantis. He is, if not in his own way, in his own viewpoint, particularly conservative, he is at least trying to appoint people that he can manipulate. You know, he backs Trump now that DeSantis is out. So if you put this kind of person in a position where they have financial leverage in like a UAP task force, they're bringing that objective viewpoint and worldview to that. So they're already approaching it with a viewpoint that I believe is not scientific and contrary to the way we should be moving in the government. And that's something we need to think about, because he's a big influencer in this space. And that's scary.
I really think that the focus should be a non-biased, impartial group of high-level people with top clearance that are just looking out for people.
Yes.
And there should be no fucking influence. There should be no bias. There should be no political inclinations.
And you probably shouldn't own an aerospace company.
No.
You know, like, you probably shouldn't be doing research on ESP and life after death and reincarnation and that kind of shit.
Yeah. Seems like a conflict of interest and it just in the sense that it's highly misleading.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's not real science.
All right, we got one final news story.
Okay.
Today, it's a bit of a biggie, I think. So Mothman. Hello, Mothman, our old friend. Mothman is back in the news, this time in North Carolina, of all places.
He's on vacation.
Yeah, he's, seeing the sights down there, going to, I mean, it makes sense. That's where the Wright brothers had their first flight. So maybe Mothman is revisiting the roots of flight down there.
Makes sense.
This article was in the singular Fortean, and it is titled, Woman reports unsettling series of strange events following winged creature sighting in North Carolina.
Oh, that's really exciting.
Yeah.
I don't know this article, by the way. This is news to me. You never sent this to me.
Oh,
so,
I didn't? Oh,
yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
Well, I will introduce you to all of this.
Yeah, let me know. What is
Okay.
this?
Yeah. So the Singular Fortean Society, who I was looking at, has really awesome merch, by the way, was contacted last month by a North Carolina resident named Megan Boyd, who wanted to report her 24-year-old sighting of Mothman. She and her boyfriend were driving home at dusk-ish when they saw something sitting in a pine tree, top of a pine tree. Okay? She initially thought that it was a Halloween decoration because it was November 1st, the day after Halloween. And it looked like it was a big white ghost just kind of hanging from the tree.
Oh, wow. Okay.
As they passed the tree, they saw this, what they thought was a ghost decoration, spread its wings, and they realized that it was actually a creature. Whatever it was, it dive-bombed their SUV as it was passing and scratched the top of it. And then they started to speed off, and it flew after their vehicle, following them down the road for several miles. Boyd said, "It started to follow us. It was at least 7 feet tall with a massive wingspan. The wings looked like bat wings, transparent in the moonlight, but it had the body of a man with long legs."
Was it white?
It was white. That was one of the things that she said that was so unusual, because normally when we talk about Mothman, we're talking about brown or gray with red eyes.
Yes.
But this was a bright white Mothman.
Okay.
I feel like we should say moth person.
Yeah, moth person.
So when they arrived home, there were scratches on the top of the SUV. And she tried to tell her father about it, and then he just teased her about it. He was like, you didn't see a moth person. You was just whatever. I don't know. Very, very dismissive of what she thought she saw.
Okay.
Which is probably one of the reasons that she just didn't talk about it for 24 years. Now, about a month after this incident, she and her friends decided to conduct a Ouija board session. And she claimed that while they were doing the session, the wind picked up outside and a dog started barking. And then, as they were guiding the planchette across the board, it spelled, "Get out."
Ooh.
Yeah. She was so terrified by all of this that she threw the board away. But it still haunted her. Okay? So she had nightmares about something looking in her bedroom window. Second story bedroom window. And anytime that she was outside at night, she had this sense that she was being watched. She tried to talk to her friends about it, and she found out she wasn't the only one who had seen something strange in the trees by the road at night. She said, "A friend I went to high school with told me she saw it in 2003 or 2004 at night driving home. My sister even claimed to see it a year ago, close by where I live now." 14 years later, 2014, her brother saw the same thing. A ghostly white winged creature right around Halloween season. Only this one was at dawn, just before the sun had fully risen.
Okay.
Unpack this for me.
Okay.
What did Megan Boyd see that night? Did it follow her, and did it continue to plague her and her dreams?
So, I think that Megan had some trauma from whatever chased them.
Definitely, yeah.
And
for
so
sure.
that probably influenced her dreams, and it probably influenced the Ouija board session, since it was such a fresh thing after that.
Right.
But in terms of the creature and what the creature could be, I don't know about their habitat, their zone. I don't know how far south they go, but it sounds like it could be a snowy owl out of place. But I don't know much about them. I don't know much about their habitat.
Are you familiar with the coloration of barn owls?
They can be they can be white. Aren't they brown and white?
Take a look at a barn owl real quick.
Oh, they're actually more white than I remember.
They're
They're brown and white, but
First off, they're super cute.
They're
They're really, really
right.
cute eyes, which doesn't take away from anything that she saw that night. But they have these big, like, oval faces. Their underbellies are pure white. And if you saw one sitting in a tree, that would definitely look like a ghost decoration, especially around Halloween.
oh,
right?
definitely.
In flight, those owls, they tend to let their hind legs just hang, especially if they're about to land on something or they're about to attack. And so that can sometimes give them the appearance of having these two long dangly legs like a human.
Especially if it's carrying something too.
Could have been.
Yeah.
It could have been.
Could have been. But you're right. Even when they're not carrying something, the legs look pretty long.
They do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it almost looks like it has hips. I mean, I guess it does have hips, but the way that when they have their legs dangling in flight, it really does look like you can see wider hips and then skinnier legs.
I can see that too, yeah.
The wingspans of these barn owls are really big, actually. They reach about 5 feet. And there's another interesting aspect to the wings that I think you get from the two-tone plumage that the feathers have, where it does kind of give the impression of them being a transparent single-color wing.
Yeah, because if you think that those brown horizontal streaks in the wing, in the feathers, is what you're seeing through the white wing,
Right.
then it could look transparent.
Yeah. So then the question becomes, would a barn owl attack a car, right?
I think it would.
I think maybe not attack, but it might have gotten confused by one. So I did a little research into this, and I found the Birdwatchers General Store, which is a Cape Cod-based organization that reports owls are commonly found along the sides of the road because there's so much litter there. Litter, especially food waste, attracts rodents and scavengers, which are obviously the owl's prey. And, owls are adept at spotting prey in the grass, whatever, the underbrush. But they're not the best at judging distances when it comes to, say, cars that are moving faster than an owl can really conceive. Especially when those cars are shining bright, bright headlights directly into the owl's eyes. And so what happens is blinded owls will panic and they'll cause all kinds of mayhem. In 2015, a Louisiana police officer crashed his patrol vehicle after an owl flew through his open window and started attacking him.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
He was okay. The vehicle was okay.
Okay.
The owl was fine. It just chilled in his car for a while and then flew out. There's actually, the article is incredible. There's a picture of the owl just like sitting in his car like, hey, what's up? We're going to go bust some burps.
Yeah, exactly.
But
That's adorable.
But it just goes to show owls don't understand cars at all. Like, they don't get that they move faster. They don't get that they're dangerous. It's not crazy to think that an owl that might have been startled by an oncoming car, then got blinded, might have panicked and tried to like get control on top of that car, or maybe even lash out at it. Or it's possible that, like in our Lizard Man series, the scratches might have been from low-hanging branches as the car sped away.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
Hard to say.
Yeah.
Either way, the owl and the Ouija board, they're not connected, We've heard before about Mothman being connected with like tragedies and all of that kind of more mystical stuff. The bridge collapse, of course, in Point Pleasant is the most famous story, but we still tend to treat Mothman as like this harbinger of destruction or badness or something like that. All of that, generally, when we think about it, comes from the Mothman books by John Keel. But the thing is, John Keel wasn't the first person to write about Mothman and wasn't the first person to connect the tragedy with it. That actually comes from an author named Gray Barker. Do you remember the name Gray Barker?
I do.
Okay. Do you remember why you remember the name Gray Barker?
I don't.
It comes from our Adamski series.
Okay.
Now, Gray Barker, he was an author, and he wrote a book on Mothman. He also wrote books on the Men in Black, and he wrote books on the Flatwoods Monster. The thing about Gray Barker is that he was a practical joker. So Gray Barker was the guy who, with Adamski, got his hands on some government letterhead and then wrote Adamski a letter on the government letterhead that was like, you have to stop talking about these UFOs. And Adamski treated it as real and he put it up in his office. He started saying like, oh yeah, the government's after me. Even though it was all just a joke that Gray Barker played. Gray Barker was actually most famous for this quote, one of my favorite quotes that tells exactly the type of person he was. When talking about how to talk about UFOs and flying saucer technology and things like that. He said, try to make it as technical as possible to make it look as real as a scientific report. The real scientists who read our zine will see the hoax, and I hope they take it as a joke.
That's really cool.
Fact of the matter is, like, he wasn't writing realistic shit. And Greg Barker's story then got rewritten by John Keel as the Mothman story, and then spawned this entire other mythology as a result of it, because Keel kind of took it at face value, not knowing that Gray Barker was a prankster.
Right.
All of that is to say that Mothman, as associated with these dangers and disasters and stuff, is an entire fabrication, right? Megan Boyd, who was conducting these Ouija board sessions, we've talked about how spirit boards, this is in our Fox Sisters, we talked about how they work through the idiomotor effect. When we move without being conscious of it, that's idiomotor. And when you have a device like a planchette, that amplifies the subtle unconscious movements that you make and makes them seem so much bigger and more dynamic. Then you get a couple of people doing this, and all of a sudden you've got a very dramatic result from an unintended effect. That's how Ouija boards work. They're not supernatural. Hasbro doesn't like put a ghost in every single one of their mass-produced boards. It's all playing with this idiomotor that we've seen since the days of table turning in the 19th century.
It's not just idiomotor, though. It's also kids joking with each other and trying to trick each other.
Oh, and for sure, part of it is that, too.
Yeah.
You know?
Like, I know, like, the neighbors that I did Ouija boards with, like, my neighbor friends were definitely pushing that planchette around.
Oh, yeah.
Without making it look like they were pushing the planchette around.
Yeah, well, I'm saying this in the most ideal of circumstances, right?
Right.
But absolutely, you get a couple of kids together, those kids are also going to like, look
They're
at me
messing
go.
with you. Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. So the Ouija board, not connected with the owl, right? Or the Mothman, moth person that they saw. But it's not surprising that Boyd's encounter affected her so much that she placed that relationship onto the spirit board. The whole thing frightened her enough to give her nightmares and make her think that this creature had followed her home and was staring at her through the window. She said she finally felt comfortable coming forward about the incident thanks to the Mothman episode of Unsolved Mysteries, which premiered July 31st. I think that's actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
Because I think that Boyd's story here shows the problem with not talking about these things. Something scary happened to her in the woods that day. She drove home. She got ridiculed for it. And she kept it secret for 24 years, maybe whispering with her friends about it, but they all were kind of like, I saw something like that too. Don't tell anybody. You know, and the more we don't talk about these things, or the more we ridicule the people who have these real, actual encounters, the more that we allow these myths and these secrets to fester and translate into unreasonable ways of thinking about them.
Yeah, because if instead of ridiculing somebody for saying that they saw something with a huge wingspan and long legs going after them, why don't you dig into it more and say, okay, well, let's see what this could have been.
Exactly.
Okay, maybe it was a moth person. Sure. Or maybe let's see what kind of birds are common to this area that hang around on the side of the road at night. Like, let's think about it. And then you can start the critical thinking conversation.
Exactly. I think it's important when people come forward with incidents. I think it's important that you respect them and that you treat them as if they've had a real encounter with something as you start to do your research and as you start to do your investigation into it. And I think far too often skeptics have a tendency to just shut that down and say, obviously you didn't see that. and yeah, do that kind of unconscious ridicule.
Well, and obviously she did have a traumatic experience. No matter what it was.
Right.
It doesn't matter what it was. Like, she had a very scary experience and suffered nightmares and all kinds of things. So, you know, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what it is. It matters how that person is doing and
Absolutely.
help them out.
Yeah, how did you respond to it?
Yeah, exactly. How did you respond?
But that's why I want to do this podcast too. You know, the mission of slaying monsters is, and I kind of always want it to be, let's bring these things out into the light. Let's actually talk about them. Let's really research them. Let's not just regurgitate what everybody else has said, but let's dig into it. Let's get as detailed and as investigative as we can and try to figure out what's really going on here.
Yeah, and let's try to have some fun while we do it.
Yeah, we can have fun. Yeah.
A little bit of fun. Not too much, just a little tiny bit of fun.
A little bit. And if you are one of these people who takes advantage of the people who have actually had experiences and manipulates them and tries to use them for your own gain, then we will make fun of you. We will ridicule you and we'll come after you.
Oh yeah, if you're like a charlatan.
Yeah, for sure. If you're trying to sell me doodle bugs, you can go fuck yourself. But yeah, I mean, but the people who have actually had the experiences, like, we have to treat them as if they're human beings who have gone through something and take them at face value.
Yeah.
That is our Fortean Roundup for September.
Nice.
There
All
you
right,
go.
there you
so,
go.
Yeah, I mean, we are 1 month away from Halloween, you realize. And that's pretty darn cool, because we're going to have some really awesome stuff going on this Halloween.
That's right, we are. We have some plans.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about this.
Because, okay. You ready to talk about it?
Yeah. I mean, I think that our listeners should know about what's going on.
All right, go for it.
So one of the things that we are going to do for this Halloween, this spooky season, is we are going to do some investigations of our own. A lot of Slaying Monsters is me doing armchair research, essentially, and I want to actually get into doing some real hands-on research. So EJ and I are going to do a ghost hunting session, and we are going to film it, and we are going to have that be hosted on our Buy Me a Coffee site. So if you want to get access to that, that'll be available next month, you know, around the Halloween time. You can head over to slayingmonsterspodcast.com, click on the support us button at the top of the screen, and that'll take you to our Buy Me a Coffee site. We're going to have a tier specific for that will give you access to it.
Some of it will be free. Some of it will be donation only, right?
Yeah, so we will have a regular old episode where we'll talk about the investigation and our findings on it and all of that stuff. That'll be an audio only episode, and then the video, you'll be able to see that on our Buy Me a Coffee site.
The full experiment will be on video.
The full experiment will be hosted there.
We hope to do more of these in the future. This is our first one.
Yeah, if you like this, if you think it's really cool, definitely check it out. Let us know, slayingmonsterspodcast@gmail.com. I would love to do more ghost investigations, maybe even more cryptid investigations in the future as time allows, and provide you guys some more of this content, because I think it's pretty cool.
I want to walk in the woods.
You want to just walk in the woods?
I want to walk in the woods with like Bigfoot hunting stuff.
Ooh,
dark.
But do you kill or not?
No.
Okay.
No. I mean, like hunting, like listening stuff.
Oh.
Like listening.
The parabolic dish. Parabolic microphone. Yeah.
And things like that.
Yeah.
No, I don't want to kill Bigfoot.
Okay.
I'm be friends with it. I wanted to take me in my sleeping bag.
Oh, yeah, right? Yeah. You need to just go camping and be like the big sign that's like, take me, Bigfoot.
Yeah,
I'm in the sleeping bag.
Yeah. Also, we have recently produced a short horror film. And we will be hosting that on the site as well.
Yes.
In the near future at some point. It's kind of a nebulous future, but we are working on it, and it's nearly ready. So that is something that I wrote and starred in, and Matt helped me write. He definitely helped with the polishing of the script. And
it was mostly you.
It was mostly you helped. But you also shot it, and you edited it as well.
Mm-hmm.
And it was directed by our friend. Actually, we had two directors on it.
Yeah, Stephen John and Kara Leaf.
Yep.
Two of my partners who I've been working with for quite some time in the film world. So, yeah, that will be coming out. I don't know exactly, but we're going to have that on our Buy Me a Coffee site as well. Mm-hmm. So definitely keep your eyes open for that. We'll let you know as things come down the line. I'd love to have that ready for Halloween as well. We'll see how much time I have in the next month.
I know. It depends, but
yeah, that's coming as well. Definitely check that out as things happen.
Yeah, and thanks so much everybody for listening, and thanks for all of your support.
Yes, thank you all.
A lot to us.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, always wonderful to hear from you. If you spot any Fortean news out there in the next month, send it our way, slayingmonsterspodcast@gmail.com. If you have any incidents, like if you saw a Mothman or a moth person, we want to be inclusive. If you saw a moth person, if you saw Sasquatch or had any really awesome experiences this month or anything you want to tell us about, slayingmonsterspodcast@gmail.com. We'd love to hear your story. We'd love to give you a space to express it and talk about it. And, let's not keep this stuff in the dark.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it. That's our Fortean. So thank you so much for listening.
Thanks, everybody.
Be safe out there. Thanks for listening to Slaying Monsters, the Paranormal History Podcast. If you like the podcast, there's a couple ways to show your support. You can tell your friends, you can leave us a rating and review on your podcast platform, or you can head over to slayingmonsterspodcast.com and click on the Support Us button to leave a donation. For questions, suggestions, and other feedback, reach out to us, slayingmonsterspodcast@gmail.com, and stay up to date by following us on Instagram @slayingmonsterspodcast. Your support helps us grow, and we are truly grateful to have our listeners and community.